It was hard to know who was more crazy. Me or everyone.
Could we tighten that up a little bit? Whoa, okay. Maybe a bit too much. How about something more unique? Oh, I mean, no, that won't work. How about something square?
Worming their way into
No, that's not right. How's about...
I tell myself, they cannot touch me.
There we go.
They are long dead.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Forming Film. This series tries to analyze movie scenes, techniques, topics, or really whatever seems interesting, in an attempt to better understand film form. Today, let's look at the frame itself. Everything you can perceive from a movie comes from what is on the screen and what is off the screen. Focusing on the images that you do see, filmmakers must figure out how they want to present them. The entire screen is a canvas for filmmakers to use, and with constantly advancing technology, the limits are subtle and few. Of course, like in many things, there is a standard through something we call aspect ratio. You see it all the time, those black bars on the top and bottom of the frame, or sometimes the image fills up the entire screen. Now, there's plenty of history on the evolution of aspect ratio in film, and while it's interesting, I don't really want to do it. So instead, I'll turn it over to Ragtime Johnny for a very brief history lesson, and then we'll get started. Johnny?
In the late 1800s, William Kennedy Dixon made the first film which had an aspect ratio 4:3. Why 4:3? Who the hell knows? But people liked it. So in 1909, the Motion Picture Patent Company declared this as the standard in the glorious US of A. In 1932, the same year Babe Ruth called a shot in Game 3 of the World Series. The Academy of Motion Pictures changed the aspect ratio to make room for soundtracks, creating what you future folk call the Academy ratio at 1.37. Then for a while, filmmakers made screens bigger and bigger and wider with Cinerama, 35mm film, 70mm film, and yada yada boopity-doo!
Thanks, Ragtime Johnny. So yeah, aspect ratios evolved into the common ratios we use today, most notably 16:9, due to demand, innovations, and screen sizes. What this video is meant to explore further, however, is how to use properties of the frame, such as aspect ratio, to create unique images that can make an audience feel a certain way. Some films use a changing aspect ratio to make different effects. Films like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World use a swift change in aspect ratio to create a striking, energetic feel to a fight scene, while a film like Tom et la Femme does the opposite, slowly creeping the aspect ratio tighter and tighter, making the audience feel tense and claustrophobic, creating a perilous feeling, cornering and endangering a character. As with all things, it's a matter of opinion and personal taste, but some deviations away from the norm don't always work. For example, Life of Pi uses a false aspect ratio, where the elements of a film can seemingly escape the screen and generate an immersive effect. While I will always respect and encourage films trying out new or interesting things, to me, this felt gimmicky and unappealing. Instead of shifting aspect ratios, how about using a completely different aspect ratio altogether? Using the Academy ratio can make parts of a modern movie seem old, making a film like Grand Budapest Hotel fit into a period piece.
I do say, I rather like this film.
Get out of my video, your bit's done already! Anyways, another use for this aspect ratio can be to recap a tale, or, like in Mad Max Road Warriors, the previous film.
Who is this Max, and why does he look more anti-Semitic than he did in the intro?
Jeez. Alright. Moving on. Besides changes in aspect ratio, filmmakers can choose to play with the shape and dimension of the frame in different ways. Many films, from action drama to romantic comedies, play around with different forms of split screen. Some films choose to split the screen itself into segments. This technique seems to be extremely effective during a funny scene, since the filmmakers can enhance a scene through clever visual comedy.
hello. I'm sorry to call so early.
Are you all right?
No one I know would call at this hour.
I did something terrible.
What did you do?
No one I know would call at this
It's
hour.
so awful.
I need to talk.
What happened?
What's the matter?
Harry came over last
I
night.
went over to Sally's last night.
Because I was upset that Joe was getting married.
And one thing led to another.
And before I knew it, we were kissing.
To make
and
a long
then
story short,
we did it.
They did it.
Other films create multiple shapes and images. How they mold the frame could change the entire mood of a film, but it's always a way to give an audience a lot of information in an aesthetically pleasing way. Well, like I said before, it doesn't always work. I'm talking to you, phone booth.
What are you gonna do about it up in your fucking high window with your goddamn binoculars?
I never said I had binoculars. I have a highly magnified telescopic image of you.
Experimentation can yield ugly results, but it can be worth the risk. And sometimes it can yield captivating results. And by the way, if you want to watch this movie, it is currently on Netflix streaming. I believe it's only fair, so I'll take this moment to make a warning. Go watch this film, but if you choose to, be prepared for a brilliant and deranged adventure into the mind of Don Hertzfeldt.
They showed it over and over again in slow motion, afraid of pain, stuck in traffic, listening to terrible music.
The pipe is leaking.
The power of Christ compels you.
Things though, and ask them a series of questions. You have to understand that the going to
Yeah, in this video, we're talking about It's Such a Beautiful Day. From the moment I started watching this film, I noticed something interesting. What the filmmakers were doing with their frame. The overall screen or export is in 4:3, sure, but in actuality, no concrete aspect ratio exists for this film. Rather, amorphous blobs of images dance their way around the screen to tell us its story.
Back in my day, this type of framing would have been a one-way ticket to the loony bin.
When is your day anyways?
Tally-ho!
Alrighty. Well, the framing choices throughout this film do an excellent job of eliciting emotional understanding. As the main character Bill descends into a mental hellscape, the framing expresses the feelings and thoughts he is undergoing.
Bill smiles and thinks for the first time that maybe everything will be
In many cases, we as the audience get to experience his dreams, and although the images may be incomprehensible due to its strangeness or speed, the mood it creates is still evident beyond the screen. This technique makes sense when viewing memories, since it also focuses solely on the key elements of the scene, much like in the way people recall past experiences.
His stepfather stormed to the door where he turned his face up towards a hole in the ceiling and yelled, "I just can't handle this goddamned woman," and left.
What's interesting about this technique is its versatility within the same film. Beyond creating specific emotions, this type of framing is also capable of replacing certain filmmaking obstacles. Don Hertzfeldt is able to eliminate the need of establishing shots by showing all the needed information on the same screen without confusing the audience about what is happening. This works for a character as well as a scene, creating a visual portrait of the individual, in this case, a deformed child. Much of what works in It's Such a Beautiful Day does so simply because it's an animated film. None of the tools used could be explicitly translated to live action, right? Well, why not? Understandably, it would be difficult to make an entire feature film with this framing, but why not experiment and create a scene or moment in the same fashion?
All those moments will be lost.
Or something completely different. Who knows? You might just create a beautiful frame. I'm John, and until next time, thanks for watching.